Good morning to one and all for joining us this morning, 19th of January 2021. I would like to specially thank all the people who have been part of this journey, which we started around 8 to 9 months before at the onset of the pandemic, where we felt it was very important to keep the mindset and, of course, engage the people who are the job seekers, the people who are working. And I think the best way to keep them motivated, engaged, was to come into a forum where we would have eminent HR personalities share their perspectives and what's happening in the industry. So it has been like a caravan, we kind of covering each industry, and we have done that in the last 8, 10 months, and we can look to continue to do that. This is our 35th webinar. And of course, the topic is the new role for HR in evolving people, process, and technology landscape. So that's what we are going to discuss. I would like to again thank all our eminent panelists for the day. Shortly, I'm going to introduce them. And for all those people who kind of have registered but have not been able to join, I would request them to join as participants. We will have towards the end of the program, they can put forth their questions, and our eminent personality panelists will be definitely addressing to their queries. To take it ahead, I would like to introduce our eminent panelist for the day. So to start with, we have Richa Dubey. Richa is a familiar name in the HR fraternity, and so with the people of TeamLease as well. So to talk about Richa, Richa is an astute leader with varied nation and international experiences in the field of human resources. She has driven HR as a strategic imperative of the organization, managed change in both an execution driven and focused growth environment, a very unique combination, right? Richa is a certified life coach, passionate about coaching students and executives on life skills and helping them grow in their life as career. As an HR professional, she believes the innate abilities and strengths each of us possess as individuals, and the strengths individuals are capable of achieving. In her career spanning over 26 years, Richa has worked with companies like, I would say, varied companies like Schneider Electric, Praxair, Broadcom Corporation, Ivega Corporation, Crompton Greaves, and of course, Mafoy. Welcome to the webinar, Richa. It's fantastic to have you here, and I'm sure the entire fraternity would look forward to hear from you in terms of your expertise and, of course, the learnings that you have had in the varied industries that you have worked or the companies that you have worked. And of course, the topic today is future of work. The topic today is in terms of people, process, technology. So we look forward to hear a lot what you foresee would be happening and what you see the changes that are happening today. So
thank you, Sudeep, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Right, that's Richa. Yeah, I think what you did right now has also been a great learning of the pandemic, right? I mean, we all have moved to stage of, we are following more of namastes today. Thank you. Thanks, Richa. Okay, moving. So we have our next panelist, Mr. Neeraj. Mr. Neeraj Bharetia is leading the HR function of Finolex Industries as Vice President HR, playing a key role in transforming HR functions aligned to business. In his career spanning 27 years, he brought out cultural change and organizational development to make organizations more agile. We hear this word agile a lot today. I think we have been hearing this. You pick up social media, you talk about organizations, behavior changes, you hear the word agile. And I think that's going to be the focal point for us to all understand from Neeraj how it has happened and etc. As a leader with high execution capabilities, it makes him a true business partner, right? He has functioned in all domain of human resources in sectors like automobile, FMCG, engineering, and other sectors. Prior to Finolex, he has worked with companies like Premium Transmission Private Limited, Hindustan Coca-Cola, Suzlon Energy, Bridgestone India, Mahindra and Mahindra, Ashok Leyland, and TTK Biomed. Neeraj, we look forward to hear a lot from you, and welcome to the webinar. And thanks for accepting, in spite of your very busy schedule, to be a part of the panelists and help us and the job seekers and the working professionals learn from you. Thank you, Neeraj. Uh, our next panelist is Mr. Navjot. Uh, Mr. Navjot Dhar is the head human resources, IT, and business strategy at Tata Smart Foods. One man wearing multiple hats, right? So, an all-rounder, otherwise we can say, with specialization as cultural catalyst in business partnering, organization development, talent acquisition, talent management, compensation, and change management as well. In his current role, he is responsible for designing and implementing HR strategies, which include long-term and short-term HR plan, defining cultural and managing people. His strength lies in design and implementing all HR processes, including talent acquisition, staffing, compensation, benefits, training, and development, health, safety, succession planning, safe, and setting up factory operations. Is also responsible for creating an IT roadmap for his organization that is data driven and which is futuristic. Before joining Tata Smartphone, Navjot has associated with companies like Godrej Consumer Products, Mars, HP, and Accenture. Welcome, Navjot Dhar from Tata Smartphones, and I think we look forward to it. It's a great panelist that we have today. With that, I think we will open up the discussion for the day. So, as we all know, the topic today, just to reiterate for people who have just joined or probably would have joined and would have missed the initial part, the topic today is the new role for HR in evolving people, process, and technology landscape. Keeping that in mind, we have been hearing and talking about future of work. So this is kind of hashtag future of work. You find a lot of place, you find across in the social media and etc. So what we are talking about is with pandemic, there have been many trends that have accelerated. I would like to go to Neeraj and would like to understand from Neeraj his views on the fact that what's future of work likely to be, and from the manufacturing perspective, from the allied industry perspective, what would he like to say about future of work? Neeraj, your views, please.
Good morning and wish you a happy new year because we are meeting for many of the people to whom I'll be meeting online for the first time.
Sure.
And thanks to Team Lead for giving this opportunity for expressing my view on various topics of HR. So in the last, you can say about a year or 9 months, we are talking more about VUCA world. VUCA world, the topic, the word which we were using till now, we are now seeing it practically. And there is a lot of ambiguity which was there. And we used to plan for years together and all that, 3 years plan, 5 years plan, and something like that. But this pandemic has made everything gone for a toss. So whatever planning we have done and everything has gone for a toss. And this is where the agility comes in, how we are able to adapt to the new normal, which is, very, very stressful and which is very, you can say, is making all of us think, from the HR perspective as well as from the business leader, how to take the business ahead. So this pandemic is you can say, which is a unprecedented, which has happened, something like after 100 years, 110 years. But if you will see as a human being, we were able to face it in a very good way because of the lot of technological advancement which has happened. Even though the work has suffered a lot, but we are seeing because of technology, we were able to move ahead in terms of, taking our business and all that. So more so, I am going to talk from the manufacturing perspective because I am contributed and work mostly into the manufacturing. There was always a dilemma in manufacturing, whether the life is important or the livelihood is important. Okay, where the migrant labor is important or the people who are working in the office, those are important. But this pandemic has taught us it's not only the upper pyramid or the topmost layer of the pyramid which is important, but also the lowermost layer of the pyramid is also equally important. Because if you are not going to have the migrant labor or the means the people who are working on the field or in the manufacturing sector, the people who are doing the who are sweating it out and working by their own hands, your business is going to have you can say a great hit in terms of the numbers and all that. So as a HR, we have to adopt to this thing. And first of all, the future, the thing which we are seeing is there is going to be a lot of automation in my current organization as well as in the manufacturing. I have seen there is a lot of automation which has started. So now the data has become a very, very important point wherein, now people are saying data is the new oil in the economy. So that is what we are seeing is a lot of things we are making it online, like, recruitment process, complete recruitment process has gone online, onboarding of the people have gone online, induction of the people have gone online, even the monthly reviews there it has gone online, sales review it has gone online. So more and more things are going online. There is a, you can say, artificial intelligence which has already come and entered. So the pace with which we were doing this all this automation and other things, it has speeded. I mean, with the pandemic, it has taken over. You can say a lot of more speed has gained there, and we are moving in that direction. There is a RPA which has come, so we are going ahead with that. Then IoT we have implemented. So these are the things which has forced us. The pandemic has forced us to think what the future and how the future is going to be, and more, if we become online or you can say automation, that is the only way we can help. It will help us in terms of business thing. But at the same time, one more thing is there: are we empathetic? Do we have the empathy, and are we taking care of our people? Because that is also equally important. Because as a leader, HR leader, it is very, very important for us to take care of our people. Because since you will be moving online and all that, there are a lot of things which needs to get change. In terms of policies, you have to change. In terms of processes, you have to change. You need to become a little more considerate, because if you are online, you are not aware whether generally your duration of the office hours gets prolonged, and are we creating some mental pressure on the people, or they are suffering from the mental health. So we need to take care of all these things. In all, what I can say is, because of pandemic, the future of work is going to be more of automation, and more machines are going to be there in our manufacturing sector. And there will be a little bit another side of it. We have to become more empathetic to all our people.
Great. So I think automation is definitely going to happen more. It has happened, and it's going to happen more. While automation happens, and I think that there would be change in the type of jobs, one has to be empathetic. The organization, the HR fraternity needs to be, or the HR people, HRBP in the organization needs to be empathetic with the change that is likely to happen. I think patience would also play a key role with the change, because you would have people who would undergo this change, and then people means that there would be of different understanding wavelength, and hence one has to be patient with the changes, is probably what we picked up from Neeraj. Thanks, Neeraj. We'll move to Richa. Uh, and I think we would like to understand from you, Richa, in terms of what do you envisage, what do you have to say in terms of future of work?
So, thank you for that invitation, Sudeep, and thank you, Neeraj, for building the base of this conversation. Um, I think the future of work is hopeful. How I am looking at future at work is, and I thank Neeraj for building up the base for this conversation today, is we have realized that the base of the pyramid of the workforce is very, very important. It is why it is called the base. We have realized it now because they have been an integral part of the manufacturing sector, and we really had to ensure that that workforce is taken care of and is continues to work while we sustain the pandemic. Second important part, technology was no more a threat. It taught us how to coexist together. The workforce and technology came together. globally we leveraged on technology and ensured that our deliverables are met or we prepare ourselves better for the coming days. Third important thing, people have found a meaning to their work. They look at why am I working? What is the reason am I doing something? The importance of why being in a role or being in an organization has become extremely important to individuals. And fourth, what I see is people have realized that there's a lot of focus on the health, whether it is mental, physical, and emotional. And this is also a time where our resilience got tested. How resilient are we as a human being? Are we prepared ourselves to face the coming situation, the threat that the world has? And from the next generation of leaders and next generation of workforce, I really think how complex it is going to be. Because this is the beginning of that complexity that we are seeing. For me, it is not just the pandemic is going and it is transforming, but this transformation is for a very, very long time. It's going to have an impact forever. We are going to see a very different hybrid workplace, hybrid workforce, a lot of experiment around designs, people, work culture, and that complexity is going to increase with every coming day. And that is how I am looking at the future of work, Sudeep and my families and all the people. I hope you have been able to hear my point this
Fantastic. I think hybrid workforce, hybrid jobs, work environment. I mean, excellent one. I think that's what we pick it up from what you said, Richa. So I think while Neeraj gave certain inputs in terms of the pyramid, I think that's what is very important. You spoke about the hybrid thing. So we move to Navjot. I think while we understood about the conceptual in terms of pyramid and the hybrid, Neeraj, sorry, Navjot, we would like to hear from you. What do you foresee in terms of future of work? What would a job mean? What would probably KRAs, KPIs mean? How much of technological intervention? How more digitization is going to play a role? Today's job seekers, when they are doing that final leg of courses, like somebody, I mean, probably looking to enroll for masters, finished graduation, or likely to take up graduation, what do you have to tell them? What is that they would like to, interestingly hear from you, which is going to help and shape their careers with respect to future of work? Uh, that's what we would like to hear from you, Navjot.
Sure, Sudeep. Thank you first for the invitation, and I would build upon what Richa and Neeraj mentioned. Uh, More from a perspective of consumer business, I would speak from that lens because that's been the area of expertise, and I can shed some light on that.
Sure.
Obviously, IT as we go forward. If we look at the entire pandemic, what it has done very specifically is change the way we work and live, for sure. While people have become distant, the relationships have become stronger. And it's imperative on the business leaders and the HR function to drive those relationships to the next level because you're not going to see people very often. You're not going to meet them physically very often. And hence, the connect with them, be it virtually with the help of technology, or even for that matter, the relationship of trust that you build with your employees will become very important in future. As we move towards the next design of the workforce, uh, the predominant thing which will conceptualize and define this design is the way the companies would want to address or reach out to their respective consumers, right? Today, a lot of the end consumers are moving online. The purchases are happening online, and hence the way we look at our workforce, for example, the sales team, would change drastically. Would they need to have the feet on street the way it was in past? Would change. The way we look at supply chain operations would change drastically. I would say this is somewhat a supply chain revolution. We started with the dot-com revolution. Now we are in a supply chain revolution. The way we reach out to our consumers will change, and hence the way we design our workforce, coming to that question, will change. The way we look at our manufacturing processes, Neeraj has already spoken about it. Digitization will be very important. Will we be able to take people out of work? The answer is no. Machines can give us a way of understanding the data, but can they do what humans can do today? The answer is no. They can help us conceptualize, make things efficient, make things easier for us, but we still need people to do the jobs. Right? We still need their gut feeling, their emotional connect. We still need the team to come together to deliver what is required. When we look at our workforce for the future, definitely segregation of people, virtual working environments would be of the most importance, or would be the area of focus. And what it does is it makes your organization leaner. It gives you the flexibility to look at multiple models of workforce, hybrid model, for example, increase in contingent workforce. For my panelists and all members who are there, nobody would have imagined, let's say, a segregated team working from different locations and still delivering the same output. We struggled with that when we started off this journey, but today, if you ask me, all the teams in their respective locations, working remotely or virtually or physically, are delivering the same value and the same output. For people who are seeking job, the basic concept remains same. They need to be confident about their abilities to deliver. They need to be confident about their knowledge and the expertise that they bring into the table. What they need to see is how the industry is evolving. As I said, the consumer industry. Let's look at the likes of Amazon, for example, Flipkart, for example. The way they have grown during pandemic is really fabulous, right? So what it does is it changes the way we reach out to our end consumers, and hence our talent needs would change. Gig workforce is the need of the future. It gives both the employers and the employees flexibility to pick and choose what they want to do. The passion which Richa spoke about has to, kind of dial up. People have to be really passionate about what they do. And the new virtual world will give them the opportunity to try, or the gig workforce model will give them the opportunity to try out multiple things and then pick up the area of their passion, which would help long-term relationship building for both the employer and employees. Right. So that is in a nutshell how I see the future of the workforce changing.
Sure. No, great. I think two significant points. You mentioned about machines. You also spoke about digitization, but you also said that it is not that they were going to take away jobs. You mentioned that the quality of jobs would change. There would be transformation in the jobs typically, which means that the adoption of machines will happen, but that would not lead to job losses, but the quality of jobs would change, or there would be enhancement in the roles and responsibilities, right? So that's a fantastic point, and I think the entire world today wants to know that what would be the effect, what would be the after effect, what would be the side effects of such things. So building upon that, I would move to probably the next question that I have, and I think I'll come to you, Navjot, from the continuity perspective. What I want to say is expanding a bit on people, the future workforce would be with a greater mix of machines and humans, or we call man and machines, right? How do you see the role of HR evolving in this? What would be HR's role? You have people, you have machines. What would be HR role in order to make this all successful, make all this what you call as profitable, successful, and etc. for organizations? What would be the role of HR? Can you please share your views on that?
Sure, Sudhir. See, first thing I would want to be very clear of is man and machine have been coexisting for more than a century. We have used machines to make our work easier, and they have made our work more predictable, made our work more efficient. I'd want to emphasize that even today, if you look at the way the technology has evolved, it can give us a lot of insights into what we have done in past. It can help us with certain predictions of the future, but it cannot still make decisions that can drive businesses or people. You cannot ask a machine to give you a simulation of your bell curve at the end of the year. It will not be able to do that, irrespective of what you see, because they can talk about the what of your work or the what of your KRA, but they won't be able to speak about the behavior of your KRA, right? They won't be able to talk about the how or the effort which has gone in. That makes a material difference when you look at evaluating people. We have to keep this in mind that the evolution of technology will continue to happen. And as that happens, the need of the employees to adapt with the new skills will continue to happen. We moved from manufacturing age to digital age. It did not mean that we lost jobs. It was just that people had to change the way they look at upskilling or cross-skilling themselves. This is where the role of HR becomes very important. We need to be a step ahead in terms of understanding what technology is going to bring to us and be ready to upskill, cross-skill our employees and give that benefit or that opportunity to people to showcase that they can coexist with technology. You can always say that there is a redundancy coming up if I make the factory digital. Yes, there will be some amount of redundancy on the shop floor, but that does not mean that you do not need people to still make those decisions or create production plans or create a, let's say, an SNOP process. You still need people to do that. The systems are just not predictable or accurate at this point in time. And I don't see that happening even over for next 10 years. So what I was saying was it's the job of the HR function to balance out the empathy and the profitability of an organization. That's the key role that HR plays. And we need to ensure that we give our employees the time to adapt to the new normal. We give them time to upskill or cross skill themselves as be the need of the organization. At the end of the day, we are looking at coexisting along with all the employees who have taken us where we are today. And hence, it is very imperative on the HR team to ensure that that continuity exists, that positivity exists in the work environment, be it at the time of hiring, be it at the time of separation. There will be changes in the way we work for sure. There will be changes in the way we model our workforce. That is going to happen. As a fraternity, we need to ensure that we ensure that the people around us find meaningful jobs and we put in the right amount of time and effort for them to upskill or cross skill themselves as we move forward.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Richa, I would like to come to you now. There are a lot of people who, I mean, you call them the people who are towards the last mile of their professional career, right? I mean, doing MBA and HR in multiple universities, and also people who have taken up the PG courses in HR, person management. And then you have also the people who kind of has just started their career in HR and wish to make it big. With this transformation, future of work, man, machine, what you have to tell them, what is that they need to look into, because they are worried the primitive ways of looking at HR is not going to give the required shape to their career, but they would require to develop a lot of other skills as well. So what is the message that you would like to give it to them?
I think any challenge is the biggest opportunity. So, what I have seen is during this tough times, human resource has emerged as a very, very important portfolio, irrespective of industry. In fact, in some industries where it has struggled to find a place in the CXO panel, it is very well established because human resources as a profession across industry proved during pandemic as to how you automate and collaborate at the same time. Interestingly, I will take a personal example. I transitioned between jobs during the pandemic, and many of us did, and not for a day. In fact, I was work. Many of us are working many more hours during this time, and I realized how much more connect was required with people, how much more collaboration tools had to be provided. You have to stand by there to people to say that yes, I am with you and let's come together. The fluidity of work arrangements, the work arrangement change. Right? That fluidity we managed. We managed innovative ways of compensating people came up. Then upskilling, which now Joe just now spoke about, and a very holistic well-being of people, quicker decision makings became important. We had to relook at the managerial capabilities during this time. So if I look at human resources, I look at the younger generation, which is going to make a career in HR, I think it's the right time because you are entering into a platform which is going to be more creative and more demanding on you. So when the scenario changes, when the old way of working is going to be thrown out of the window, the time has come to build something. 90s, when I think we all started our career and the economy was opening up to the world and globalization was on, we saw a transformation in human resources. We built it over the last 2 decades plus. With this transformation, with the pandemic, which hopefully we will be crossing soon, and the fluidity of workforce, the transformation, the policies, approaches, innovation in compensation, reskilling, upskilling, management of a different hybrid workplace, the challenges are immense for humans. So look at it from the opportunity perspective, look at it from how creative you can be, look at it from the perspective what more can you bring in here. And I think it's a plethora of things you can do. It's your platform to come and paint the canvas. So welcome to this complex world. You are in for the right time, and pandemic has not stopped hiring. Pandemic has not stopped anything. We have just found way of doing things differently. You also mentioned, and Neeraj also mentioned. And this is happening irrespective of industry. And some of the industries performed amazingly well during this time. So look at it from that perspective. That is my message, young HR professionals.
Sure. Thanks, Richa. So let's move to Neeraj. I mean, what would be your message to the technical folks? I mean, the folks with a blend of who have done their graduation in manufacturing, as in mechanical engineers, production engineers, and many of the people who typically have a background of engineering and are looking to make a big career in manufacturing or probably in IT-enabled manufacturing world. What would be your message to them? What are the changes that they need to look into? Like we said about the HR folks, the kind of changes that, and we heard from Richa. What would be your message to them? What kind of skill sets that they need to develop? What is that they need to be open about? The flexibility in terms of learning and the way forward.
So I look at it, from the two perspectives. One is the technological perspective, and another is, about the mind or the mindset. Okay. If I'm talking about the technological perspective, the jobs like, only the mechanical or something, from mechanical to mechatronics, or, the hybrid nature of the jobs which are going to come in the picture. And everybody, each and everyone, whosoever is going to work in manufacturing, they have to adopt this digitalization, whether it is they are working on machines or any other, or in supply chain or in any other process. Because, and these people, they have to go on all the skills, whatever is relevant today will not be relevant after 3 to 4 years. Like in our case, like Rita said, we started in somewhere in 90s in HR, and IR remained relevant for next 10 years and something like 10 to 12 years, and then only the HR started, and slowly the other skills have started. But whereas with the increase of digitization, the skills are going to become redundant after every 4 to 3 to 5 years. So people whoever are coming in the job from the various things, they have to go on adopting to the new type of skills, technology, and other things, so that they remain relevant for the job. Like even in the digitization, the things are going to move up. It's not going to remain as what it was or what it is today. So in the everywhere it is going to move up. So it is imperative, or it is very important for all the people who are coming from the various facets, that they should go on upskill or cross skill, and move up in terms of the skill level. Secondly, when I talk about another aspect, which is about the human mind, they need to have that change mindset, all the time. So they cannot go on resist for the changes which are coming. So that is the one thing. Secondly, they need to have that agility to learn. we cannot say, okay, this is the thing which I have learned, so it is going to continue for me for the over a long period of time. I mean, sometime it may happen that people may have to, move from the various function, inter-functions, things are going to get merged. Maybe, marketing or HR may merge, something like that is going to come in the future. So that is the second thing. Third is more important, another important thing is, how I'm able to collaborate with others, because so that it will help me in learning the new skills. It will help me to understand the business. It will give me a better perspective in terms of delivering my results. These are my thoughts.
Sure. Avjot, I'm going to come to you, and as I've picked up specific industries, I think since you represent consumer durable, a lot of changes have happened there as well. I think use of technology to map productivity and how that productivity can play a key role in terms of career development, how tools and technology adoption and tools of technology with respect to whether it's a merchandising job or probably it's a sales job or it's a customer care job has become so very important, right? So what would HR play as a role in this transformation, training, and then how do you make sure that, because see, the success is when more and more people successfully adopt it. It cannot be that only a set of people adopt it, because then you are not able to do it for mass. So what would be the role of HR to ensure that most of these things done? Would you also, like, say, for example, would you also suggest some changes in the courseware now that days are eminent that it would come? Would you like to catch them young and teach some of these things at the early days as well, so that when they come out of the thing, they are more or less aware of these things? I would like to hear your views on overall what would be the HR role in all these three, four things, please.
Sure, Sudeep. So the first things first, I think hiring across levels will continue. And whatever I've seen over last 3 to 4 months, I think the hiring has just accelerated. So let's be clear of that the companies are here to stay. Yes, there are some sectors impacted in a good way, some sectors impacted in a bad way, but they will have their own course correction in terms of coming back to profitability and coming back to normal operations. We need to give them time. As far as the role of HR goes, irrespective of where you hire a person, be it an entry level, be it a mid level, or be it a senior level. Neeraj also talked about this. Change management over a period of time is going to be very, very critical. And this change management needs to happen from a behavioral perspective, from a functional perspective, both the sides, right? Technologically, if you ask me, if I look at the consumer business, uh, there was an adoption of technology already happening, be it at the factories or be it at the endpoint sales. We were starting to talk about IoT. We were starting to talk about big data. How do we look at digital twins for the factories? At the same time, we were also talking about Salesforce automation, where a handheld device is able to capture the entire beat plan for a salesperson, look at what they're doing, take the critical inputs. What pandemic has done is it's just increased the pace of adoption. Companies which were a little resistant on adopting the technology have now been able to adopt the technology faster. What it does, it becomes very important for the HR team to ensure that the pace of training, the pace at which the change management happens, is at the pace at which we are adopting the technology. We don't want our people to be surprised that we are doing a certain things, because messaging is very important. The moment we see a factory getting a digital twin for itself, or we putting IoT sensors in the factory, people start thinking that the organization may be looking at cost cutting. That's not the way. It is for us to adopt technology. Similarly, if you look at field sales, today, if you are able to track things through a mobile phone, does not mean that we don't need the sales team. It just means that we need to be more efficient in doing what we are doing, because the way people used to plan their market visits will no longer exist in future, right? Or it will be significantly reduced. So technology adoption through HR becomes very critical. The job of the HR team is to ensure that people understand the larger perspective of what we are trying to achieve when we are adopting a new technology. We need to ensure that we are digitally equipped, given that the classroom trainings are going to reduce. We need to ensure that we have the right tools and technology at our end, at the end of HR, to enable this kind of transition at the first place, right? If you want to talk about virtual training sessions, if you want to talk about pre-recorded webinars, if you want to talk about computer-based simulation trainings, or game-based simulation trainings, these things need to be ready at our end, and it takes a good amount of time and effort to make something like this ready, which is adaptive in nature, which gives you the result the way it needs to give in a classroom training. So from an HR perspective, we need to ensure that we find the right balance of adapting technology ourselves in the first place to ensure that we carry on the message and get the workforce ready before we start rolling out newer and newer technologies for them. When it comes to hiring, I don't see a preference changing, whether it be a fresher or it be a senior or a mid-level management personnel. Uh, Employees will have to adapt to the way the company or its strategy is going to change, right? HR has to hold both these ends together. It will become more and more complex from an HR's perspective to manage these things. So cross-skilling and upskilling ourselves becomes very important. We have earned a place on the table, as Richa mentioned earlier during our conversation. It's very important now we show the value add that the HR can do, or as a function we can provide to the business in guiding and supporting them in enabling these change journeys for the employees at a good pace, and at a pace at which both the employees and employers benefit, right? So that's in a nutshell how we're going to adopt to this, Sudeep.
Sure. I think that gave a lot of insights in terms of the kind of engagement would be. And I think the most positive thing that you said at the beginning of this discussion, I mean, the answers after I had put the question is that everybody is going to hire and the hiring is not going to go down. It's going to be only changes. And I think the impact is good and bad with respect to for industries. And it has been with respect to time to time. But yes, I think everybody is going to hire. It's going fantastic. I think we have close to 60 odd people who are live listening to this and would put forth their questions as well. And we see this number growing with every passing minutes and etc. Great. So now I'm going to come into one another topic which is getting discussed a lot these days. That while we spoke about how future of work is going to be, what role technology will play, what role HR will play, we are also going to talk about model. So some of the evolving models, of course, which have been there in India for some time or across the world, but I think would need a lot of transformation in themselves is the models of engagement, employment engagement, right? So one, I think, is of course you have the gig workforce, right, which is there. I mean, not just limited to an e-commerce industry, it's now across all the industries. Then you have contractual workforce. Some places you have a long-term contract, some you have project-based contract, some you have short-term contract kind of thing and all. And of course then you have also as and when it's kind of in some of the industries which we are seeing, flexible work hours or probably weekend work hours kind of thing. So the contractual workforce with respect to that. We also have apprentice interns that are kind of coming in. So how do you as HR people, how do you look at it, and how's that it gets evaluated, that which model for what kind of courses, or like which horse for what kind of courses, or what kind of engagement would yield, and where all this engagement can be done. So how is it getting kind of looked into from the organization's point of view, and what would be the role of HR in doing all this? Richa, can you please share your views?
Sure, Sudeep. I think that's a very, very important touch point that you brought up. There are major changes across industries. And how I am looking at it is engagement in different ways. Yeah, the way we engage in communication, in recruitment, in learning, in the workplace that we operate. So I'm going to touch upon these 4 or 5 points of engagement, not just one way of engaging. So I think even the most unskilled workforce has become a gig workforce. That is my understanding as I went through this industry in the last journey of the last 12 months. They are available to be operational irrespective of the place they operate from, irrespective of the place they belong to, and how they are connected. So one point is that, and organizations are going to have a mix. What we have learned is we cannot just go with one way of hiring. So we have to look at younger talent, build a strong talent pool, be open to having a mix of contractual and full-time employees, and open up different functions to this kind of operations, not just where it comes to manufacturing at the base, but different levels and different functions being open up for this kind of mix in a workforce. We spoke a lot about communication and collaboration, so that is another thing. Third important point, what I feel is there's going to be a mix of choice of workplace you operate from, which is already happening. And wherever we had doubts, pandemic has proved it the otherwise. And people are going to choose. So we being social humans, social beings, we need a workplace. We need to come together and see each other face to face. If this panel discussion was in a hall, it would have been a very different film. I am missing it somewhere, though I love listening to it. I wish I could see the audience. So being a social being, I do miss that. At the same time, I'm sitting here with all of you and leveraging the technology to connect with this very interesting group of people. So this mix and choice we have to provide to the workforce. They can choose to work when they come to office, and again, where they want to work from home. And around 8 months back, it was a time to give away real estate, and people were giving up offices. Interestingly, today, as you see, many news is popping up in the newspapers is that organizations are investing in workplace, physical workplace. So that hybrid choice has emerged here also. And similar thing in learning. Isn't it micro modules have emerged very strongly. So not just a classroom session where we want to come together, but also the time that we spend. So people are looking at, whereas learning has taken a very different form in the last so many years, the pace, as Jyot was very rightly pointed out, with the technological pace, micro modules have emerged very strong, whether in classroom sessions or in this kind of virtual sessions. So, and at the same time, we are rethinking the complete talent strategy. How are we going to design? So, for me, the engagement modules has evolved. I would not say this, but evolved to a different level. Change, testing our resilience, testing our capability to transform, change, adapt, testing our leadership abilities and managerial abilities. So this engagement module is a much more evolved module that I'm saying, which is touching communication, the way we hire, the way we engage workforce, the place we operate from, the way we connect, collaborate, communicate, the way we learn. So it is touching every aspect of life for a employable workforce today. This is what I had to say, Sudhir.
Great. So I'll move to Neeraj. Your views on the models of engagement, the models that we spoke about, the workforce, short-term, long-term contract staffs, also in terms of apprentice, and I think project-based kind of engagement as well. So your perspective with respect to the manufacturing that you have been working, you have seen these changes happening there, and I'm sure you would be part of a lot of other changes that's going to happen. You would witness them. What are your views with respect to these models of engagement?
So, Sudeep, so first of all, we need to understand remote work is not distant, but it is different. That is the first thing which we need to understand. So the work is going to be there. It's only the different way of doing it. That is, that is one as a leader. or as a manager, or you can say the senior leadership team, we need, as a HR, we need to make them understand. So secondly, if we are since the people have gone virtual and all that, digitization has taken place, we get the feel or the loss of control. We feel that okay, there is no control over the things which we are doing. So as a engagement and all that, what we can do, we can have instead of having a micromanagement, can we have the outcome focus? Can our KRAs, can our you can say KPIs, everything are very sharp, and it is purely based on the outcome which we are looking from the business perspective. Secondly, can we have the right type of a bonding through lot of collaborative efforts, through proper reviews, through proper you can say quarterly review, monthly review, so that people are becoming aligned and all that. Third, one more thing which is going to happen is the talent is not going to spread all across the geography, because right now till now we were thinking if you are in a metropolitan city or something like that, we were looking at a talent which is available here only. But with this digitization, it is going to help us to go to the tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, where even the good talent is available. Then one more topic which is going to come up is diversity, because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of talent who, because of you can say maternity and other things, they are not able to rejoin at something. And this is the another opportunity which is opening up and which is going to give us good number of good talent who can be brought on board and who can be taken uh, along with the growth of the organization. So this is what I feel is one way of employee engagement. And as an organization, there are other things as HR people, we have to just beyond this, we can innovate something. We can go on innovating the engagement model, and we can engage them through various other activities also besides the work. There are other things like meditation or something like that, which will help them to calm down, which will help them to focus on the work what they are doing.
Great. I think the kind of mix that you're talking about, the different element of intersection that would be required to make all this happen. Thanks for sharing that. So now, I would come to you, and I love putting things a little uh, distinctive way, or probably taking the views or the questions of the participant fraternity to you. You represent consumer durable, right? So more or less it happens that uh, the models of engagement can be many, but I think understanding customer wants, needs comes with experience. That's how you would see that typically the more experienced people do exceptionally well in their industry, right? Now the question that I have is that this gig workforce, or probably the contractual short-term engagement, the long terms of course definitely help, and which are there for a good period of time, but too short contractual programs, the gig workforce, are they able to get the desired experience to be finally delivering what's the outcome with respect to customer loyalty, building customer loyalty, making a customer experience very good? Does it really resonate? Or if not, how would companies like you look into that?
All right. So they're building on to your question and inputs from Neeraj and Richa. Um, See, first things first. I think what we need to keep in mind is, as Neeraj mentioned, the way we are going to do things is different. It's not that we are going to stop doing things. The way we are going to do them is going to be different. If you look at the consumer-based mindset, um, that was something which was existential in past. Now the difference is that HR as a function is getting more and more involved because the way people interact with their consumer is changing, and hence the way we want our employees, or hence the front face of the consumer interaction to change. We have to play a critical role. What we also have to keep in mind when we talk about gig workforce, contractual workforce, specifically from a labor law perspective, we need to keep in mind that our labor laws are evolving. The government is understanding that there is a need to expand the paradigm of the definition of workforce, the way Social Security works. This was something which was non-existent, let's say, a couple of years back. There's a lot of work which has happened with the four labor laws which are going to get enacted soon. If you look at that, the government is looking at recognizing the gig workforce, the contractual workforce, as a core workforce and not as a distant workforce. What it's going to do is it is going to open up flexibility both for the organization and the individual. When it comes to experience giving output, I think that's not the way it works. If you ask me specifically, now we are at a stage where ambiguity is high. So saying that what worked in past is going to work today may not be relevant, and hence the experience that people carry over the years may be relevant in certain contexts, may not be relevant in certain contexts. And I'll give you a classic example. For example, the way we are looking at sales as a function. The earlier model was we have the general trade where we reach out to the mom and pop stores. Then you have a more evolved store where you go ahead and shop using tray and basket, which is called the standalone modern trade. Then you have the bigger modern trade stores like big bazaars of the world, etc., etc. Post pandemic, they used to contribute to a 70-80% of the overall sale for any of the major consumer goods company. Today, if you see that contribution has started to come down, it's started to go into digital space where Amazon as a retailer or Flipkart as a retailer or Big Basket, Grofers, etc. are evolving, right? So nobody knows what kind of experience you need to make these kind of consumer connects happen with people. And I'm going to be very frank about it. You get me a sales head who has worked in the industry for 20 years, may not know anything about how digital economy works or how the new millennials think about it. But you get me somebody, let's say, who's straight out of the college and has lived the digital world, will tell you what a Snapchat can do or what a Twitter can do in terms of influencing the consumers or what a YouTube can do in terms of influencing the consumers. So understanding the context of talent requirement and then mapping it to the assessment of the individual is very important. Again, that's where HR's role will become very, very critical. We need to go back to to the business heads and tell them that they need to be flexible in terms of adapting talent for the future. And I'll keep on repeating this. I don't see the hirings going down. I just see the way we do it is going to be different. And I'll again keep on saying it at the cost of repetition. Upskilling and cross-skilling will become the need for the future. And that's where the role of HR in making two things understand. One, that we need to constantly reinvent as a function, and the way we look at serving the business needs to reinvent. We need to keep the business honest in terms of the changes that we see happening in day-to-day world and how does that impact our employees. For example, the moment you move to virtual world, the overall security of the employee, the way we engage with employees is going to change. You have real-time chatbots which will give you a sense of engagement around what employees are feeling, what they are doing, etc. You can put in facial recognition cameras at the entry of your premise when they can capture the pictures and analyze the picture over a period of time to say if somebody is happy or somebody is sad, right? Real-time engagement is the need of the day. Real-time adoption is the need of the day. And the only function which has access to the length and breadth of the organization is the HR function. So their role in enabling this is going to be very important. Their role in making sure that the business leaders adopt the way the things change in future is very important. And the concept of experience versus skill versus critical roles versus the way you want to serve your consumers, they all need to be looked at with a separate lens. You cannot now combine everything and say, oh, I need a person with 20 years of experience because he has done that. What he did was 20 years back or in last 20 years, the world has changed. So you need to be adopting to that kind of a mindset. And that's where I see the role of HR ever evolving and becoming more and more complex.
Great, great, fantastic, Navjot. I think few things that you spoke about. Somebody with 20 years of experience to hire as a head of sales versus somebody coming from out of college and then has an awareness of how the digital things works and probably He is a little way ahead than the other guy in terms of understanding that how digitization can play in influencing the customer, which is the new edge kind of thing and all. Now, we move to some of the critical questions part, right? And I'm going to take one after another with all of you. Since we were talking about upskill things, I'm going to take up this question, which has come from some of our, you know, participants. So the question is that we hear from the fraternity that there is a need to upskill, right? How much of upskilling is related to the career aspiration? How much of upskilling is related to the fact what is my educational background and what I aspire to be? So that's the question that has come. Is it too generic? Is it related to aspiration or educational background? That's what is the question. So I would go to Navjot, you yourself. I think where it is coming from is that our participant or the job seeker fraternity has more or less understood that upskilling is required because they have been hearing this from a good time, but they really need some element of direction. So the question that has come up is, what are the things that I need to upskill, keeping in mind my educational background and career aspiration in mind, or is there anything else? Your views, Namjot.
Satip, I'll be a bit critical of this because I keep on hearing this question a lot whenever I interact with a lot of freshers and people during their early stints. They are very keen to know what they need to gain as a skill so that they can amplify their career moves. My response to that is a little different. You see, a person by himself or herself is responsible for his or her own career. In my mind, they need to first find their passion. That is very, very important. And there is a context to it. If you look at the way we have evolved if I say culturally, right? Job security has been very, very significant for us, at least till our generation. If I take the liberty to put everybody in the same generation, at least till our generation, job security has been very, very important. And hence, there is a kind of a rat race to figure out which job will give you the highest ROI with respect to input and output. I think that is going to change, specifically with the millennials coming in. That aspect is going to change. What is required is the passion for doing what you really want to do, right? And figuring that passion out needs to happen quite early during the life of a person, probably early stage of careers. If you look at the dot-com boom, let's say the first 10 years of the century, uh, companies used to hire across the board, right? If I look at my experience from some of my previous organizations, when we used to go to a campus, the demand was so high that we used to hire across the board, be it an mechanical engineer, be it electrical engineer, be it an IT engineer, be it a computer engineer. We used to just hire people. What we used to look at skill and adaptability and obviously the nature of the person, etc. If I look at it in a very, very crude way, and I'm being a little blunt about it. Then we used to cross train everybody, get them to a particular skill level understanding, and then put them onto the projects. After 2 years, people come back and say, when I started, .NET was in boom. Today, Java is in boom. Or when I started, networking was doing well. Today, I need to be certified with X, Y, and Z, and let's start cross training. And similarly, in the industry, as the industry evolved, the skills moved from X, Y, and Z. The industry kept on evolving. The trainings kept on happening. People kept on changing their skill sets. That is how it's going to happen, and that takes a bit of time. What people didn't realize during the dot-com boom was that they were taking those choices involuntary. My request to the audience and people who ask these questions is to take that choice more voluntarily. The moment they do that, they're opening themselves up to more adoption, faster adoption, because they're going in the direction in which they are passionate about. I can tell them, let's say today, e-com is a boom, right? I can tell them gigs are working fine, but it's within a specific industry. Or I can tell them, let's say, airline as an industry or tourism as an industry is going down, but that is because it is the way it is today. Can I tell them the way technology is going to evolve tomorrow? No, I'm not the architect of it, right? And I don't think any of the panelists or any of the HR folks who are there out there can give an answer to the question that tomorrow you're going to be good if you study this or if you cross skill this. We have to keep our eyes out. We have to keep telling people to be self-aware, and we need to keep telling them that they need to be passionate and choose a line of passion. That is the only thing that is going to help them pick up something which they will excel at. Otherwise, it's more like getting guided in a direction which is governed by basic security needs, which at this point in time, from an evolution perspective, I think we are well past.
Sure.
Right? So if you're looking at freshers, the idea is to push them in a direction where they go where they are passionate about. Digital, for example. Can somebody, and I can put that question across on even on LinkedIn, can somebody tell me what's the digital technology which will excel in 2025? I don't think anybody can talk about it. Or AI, how it will evolve. Everybody is saying today big data is important, AI is important, digital is important. But are those the only three lines which are important? No. Legal is still important. Finance is still important. HR is still important. Arts is still important. Right? So the idea is to figure out what you're passionate about and then choose that.
Sure. Fantastic. I think that's phenomenal the way you have put it across in terms of understanding self and then also doing a study of the aspiration. But having said that, be flexible enough to adopt. That gives probably the chance of getting a good employer, find a good employer, or an employer finding an interest in hiring you as well. Interesting. So next I'll come to Neeraj. You spoke about the fact that, the has taught us that adoption of technology is important, which has also opened up the fact that employment can be taken to the tier 2, 3 cities, tier 3 cities kind of thing as well, right? Which is what you spoke about. So I think some of the HR folks have put across this question, and I think this is what they would like to know, that what tools do you suggest to monitor these remote workers? So I would like to hear from you, Neeraj. You can specify tools. If not specify, you can talk about conceptually how does it work and what is that you have to tell to your juniors who belong to the HR fraternity and perhaps coming from the manufacturing industry itself.
Yeah. So if we want to go for the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 talent, so there are various tools which we can adopt. Right now, there are we are exploring about the Darwin box, which is one of the things which we are exploring, how to go ahead with the recruitment, how to make online recruitment. Like that, there are various software which are available. So we have, based on our own organizational requirement and other things, we can look into the tools which are available from the market, and then based on the suitability and the economics which works for the various level of organization. If the organization is big enough, they go for a bigger tool which is expensive, and the organization which are not having that much budget, so they can go for the other some free softwares are available, other types of software are available. So based on that, they can go ahead. Secondly, we can go ahead with the, you can say, there are other agencies which have come up which are ready to give you to the virtual complete end-to-end process for this. And I think one of them is TeamLease. So we can also bank on the TeamLease for taking the people from the tier 2 and tier 3 where they can handle the end-to-end process and give us the required manpower.
Sure. So I think Tirupudi, you have put this question. So there are multiple tools that are available, which typically you have questioned in terms of monitor. How to monitor? What are the tools that you suggest to monitor the remote workers, which means people who have already been employed. So there are multiple tools that are available, which starts from mapping their attendance to their productivity or whatever that we're supposed to do and what they have done for the day. I think we can connect on the same after the webinar is done. So I think we'll move towards the last phase. And I think we spoke about hiring, we spoke about, so two important aspects. And I think I'll go to you, Richa, on this. Wages, right? So everybody is interested about so everybody is extremely happy about, oh, there is going to be great hiring, technology, skills and all. But in sabke baad kya? So one of the questions that comes is, how would wages overall behave? Of course, we have seen a pandemic. Organizations had their share of opportunity loss, revenue loss, or whatever loss that you call about. and are looking for a rebound, a strong rebound, right? In that, there is going to be hiring, people are required, things are getting to normal. How would the wages behave? And related to that, part B is, of course, performance appraisal. So, on what are your views for that, which you feel that how would the wages behave, and how would performance appraisal be kind of looked into in now that in the next 2 3 months we would be due for many of the friends and etc. would like to see a process being run, or kind of things, right? So this is one of the interesting things that I think people would like to know.
Thank you, Sudeep. This is a very, very interesting question and extremely
I
relevant
always love to
because
put interesting questions to you.
thank you for that.
Sure.
I hope I'm able to answer it up to the
Absolutely.
expectations of all of you.
Absolutely.
And I would definitely request now Jodh and Neeraj to pitch in,
Yeah,
as
of
they feel,
course.
because
Of course.
I'm going to think up from my hat now and just,
And
talk
and
about
they're expecting that you cover most of them.
hopefully, hopefully, because we have been in the thick and thin of this. And no matter in which business we are into profit, right? So if you're not making profit, no need being into business. That's most important. And we don't have to shy away from that. Similarly, if I'm working, I should be paid well. Nothing to shy away from that. Now, I will take the PMS point first, okay, the performance management system. And I think one of my esteemed panelists was talking about how it has become short paced. Okay, we know it's no more an annual event or a biannual event. It is, you look at the value creation. Very interesting thing that we do in our organization is we look at a value creation plan. My KRAs are broken into bi-monthly value creation plan. It's not a KPI that I go and surprise my manager at the end of the year saying, hey, here it is, I have done this over the year. So what I do is every second week, what value creation have I done to the task that evolve out of my KPI? Is this. And we have made this a norm in our organization. It takes some time. We are gradually bringing it down further down. I think the same thing is going to happen to wages. It's no more going to be a one complete large package, but I am seeing a lot of event-based compensation or target-based compensation or stocks which has already been into use. So apart from an annual CPC, we are looking at more flexible structure or flexible way of paying and compensating people. And let me not again limit compensation to the money, but beyond it, are we investing? That is becoming another important thing. As upskilling, reskilling becomes important, and as the pyramid gets steeper, we see people falling down. Some people can't even enter because they don't have the relevant skills. Am I providing that platform? So when it comes to really, compensating people, it's about investing in them. It's about paying them for the right kind of behavior and right deliverables at the right time throughout the phase, rather than making it an annual event. So having this short-term bonus or award plans have become very important. So recognition and rewards play a very important part in that. And small packages, which overall comprise of your annual earnings, that has become important. At the same time, you look at what am I going to earn in the longer run. So yeah, I am seeing it evolving in the same fashion. Not just an annual event of a PMS, but short, immediate, quick feedback, quick respite. What value creation am I doing on every second week, which I am discussing with my manager. The second thing is paying people for the right behavior, right deliverables throughout the year, breaking into shorter reward packages, shorter bonus packages, at the same time that plus something to look at in the longer run. So this is how my understanding of the evolution has been. Now, Jyoth and Neeraj want to pitch in, please do so.
Sure. We would like to go to Neeraj. Neeraj, your views in terms of how do you think wages would behave in the, and what do you think you would like to tell to our friends who are on in jobs? Of course, looking forward to the appraisal process as well. What they can expect and what would the wages behave like?
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at is, if you look into the various reports which are coming, so which is talking about next year, there is going to be a GDP growth of 9 to 10%. That is what, even our Prime Minister is speaking, and not only our Prime Minister, a lot of industrialists and everybody is speaking. So if you take this into consideration, I believe, we should have the normal increment for the various sector wherever they are operating. So as far as I know, my current industry is concerned, we are also thinking of going for a normal increment because to retain the talent, when if the GDP is growing by 9 and 10%, and if your industry is also going to grow, then retaining the talent is going to become a very critical aspect. And if you want to retain the talent, it is very important for you to go with the normal increments, because this is the time again where in the last 9-10 months, all the most of the HR heads, they have gone ahead and got the best of the best talent from the market, because the talent became available because of there was a lot of other industries wherein there was a lot of layoff was there. uh, so these talents, when if you have brought it on board, so now it is important for you to retain them, grow them with your organization. So I believe if you are talking about the wages and increment, the next year everything is going to be a normal, and we may have to go pitch in even to the higher management, telling them even if we go for a little higher notch up, it is better for us, because if with the great difficulty we got the talent, so it is good for us to keep them on board. If we are talking about the PMS, we have to be uh, considerate, because of COVID, there is a lot of hit which has taken place in terms of the people are not supposed to get blamed for the things which were not there in hand. So that consideration, that empathy we should have with for the people for this year, because businesses are there for the years, decades, and centuries. Whereas if we take some shortcut or something, and if we go for some drastic or something action which is a negative in sense, so it will create a rippling effect, and it will make your talent to go away from your organization.
Sure. Sure. Navjot, your views on the same point?
I think Neeraj and Richa summed it up beautifully, Sudeep. Just to add on, I think the way compensation works is first step, or my couple of submissions to it is everybody needs to understand that it's a holistic approach. Compensation is not just the cash part of it, it's cash plus benefits plus rewards and recognition plus the entire I will not say money, but the entire time, effort, and money which is spent by the organization in grooming and developing and retaining an individual. Yes, the year was tough, and as Neeraj said, the part of being compassionate and being empathetic towards what has happened in the business is very important. Same has to be balanced with what Richa said, which is the profit side of the business, because the
Right.
business also has to be sustainable. As far as market goes, I think the companies would be smart enough to understand what they need, both in terms of talent and in terms of retention or a PMS process, to implement it in a way which is which is balancing out of both their needs and the employees' needs. To be very specific here, I think the companies will move towards a normal performance management system or cycle, and towards a normal increment cycle, at least for this year. And then depending upon how economy grows, the inflation is, etc., the increments would be decided for the respective organization. So we just have to keep the broader mindset uh, there in terms of how comp and benefit works. And we also need to keep one thing open is uh, a company X can afford a specific increment or follows a specific process. It need not be a role model for all the companies in the industry to do the same thing, right? So that is something that I always request the HR community to talk about very transparently, which is the state of the organization, the way their business is, and hence what's the impact and what kind of compensation the organization can afford. Because I can always compare to the best of the best and say that why can't we replicate that process, or why can't we give that kind of increment? But it is very subjective to the respective organization. So transparency in communication and adopting the process that suits you fit in the longer run is the need of an hour. But process will
Absolutely.
get back to normal.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So I think it's been a great session. We started with the topic, and I think the new role of HR in evolving people, process, and technology. So I think we learned a lot in terms of been having the empathy angle, of course, with respect to adoption, learning the skill sets. I think great news for the industry, and of course for the job seekers, that hiring is not going to slow down. Hiring is going to be at its pace. We are going to only do things differently now that we are not going to stop doing things. I think each one of you focused on those points, and I think the entire set of people who have registered with us and who have been following from the morning 11 a.m. have got extremely positive vibes and insights about what's likely to happen. We touched upon wages, we touched upon hiring, performance appraisal, skill sets. So thanks to all of you, Navjot, Richa, Neeraj, for being part of this session, and thanks for sharing your insights and valuable insights. And I'm sure that's going to help us a lot in the coming days. And we look forward to hearing from you in the near future as well. Thanks once again, and thanks from Team Lease to everybody involved in making this happen.
Thank you, everybody, and best wishes to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sri. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Neeraj.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richa.
Thank you.
Thank you.